Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Formula A podcast. This is going to be a mix of the Spanish GP review and the Monaco GP review. Today, we are down one member. Marcus is very busy with some very important stuff and cannot make this week. He can touch on that a little more in the next podcast, but today it's just Kyle and I, Mr. McLaren and Mr. Red Bull. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Not as good as you after, Red Bull's weekend, but I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. I think we gotta, this is quite the busy podcast for us to be tag teaming, so pretty excited for it, Marcus, missing out on this one, but I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about next week too. So for now, we got a lot to talk about. We got Spain, we got Monaco preview as well, but obviously a lot happened in Spain. And a lot of good stuff for some teams, a lot of bad stuff for other teams. And I think we all know one of those bad things. We thought this bad luck would be saved for this coming weekend. Maybe he got it all the way, but dude, heartbreaking for Leclerc and Ferrari. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, you know what? Yeah, it was definitely heartbreaking because he, as far as I'm concerned, had that sewed up. I don't think there was much Max or Red Bull could have done to touch him if he continued that pace. And I'm sure he wasn't going, well, I would almost guarantee he wasn't going balls to the wall in those laps before his car went, tire management and fuel management. So if Red Bull did bring anything, I'm sure Ferrari had an extra couple dials on the knob to seal that race. It definitely sucked that Sainz didn't pick up the points that he could have. We'll get on that later, but yeah. I don't know. I am hopeful for Leclerc this coming weekend. I just don't see Ferrari and Leclerc having back-to-back terrible weekends, and I feel like that's just going to haunt me now that I said that. So Leclerc plans if I jinxed them, but I just don't see a double back-to-back DNF or issues for that matter. And Kyle, you were there in person. I feel like Leclerc's already got his Monaco DNFs out of the way this year, and in a Ferrari too. So, yeah, I'm feeling hopeful for Leclerc and even Sainz. I think it'll be a turnaround for them. What do you think?
I think it'll be a big turnaround, and I mean, poor Carlos, man. I think that guy's just got something in his suit or whatever. It's just like a magnet for gravel traps. Every time you think he's out of it, he's avoided something or he's going to turn it around, another thing happens to the poor guy. I mean, you saw, it wasn't just him this weekend either. I mean, those headwinds were just totally crazy going into turn 4. Yeah, turn 4. Yeah. They were just crazy. They caught Max out too. Obviously his little off wasn't as bad as Sainz's, but yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough seeing a guy like Carlos too that's really likable, and everybody wants him to do good as much as he wants, and the team wants. All the fans want to see him do good too. Want to see him get that first pole, first win. But it was another tough one. He got 4th, but yeah, I think a podium is exactly what they would have been looking for, especially Leclerc out. They maybe wanted a few more points, but I think he did get the best out of the situation that he was in, so I will give him that. But yeah, you would hope that it would turn around, especially they had such a big lead. Totally relinquish now to Red Bull with another 1-2. Maybe not the 1-2 order that some people thought it should have been, but a 1-2 is a 1-2 for them. I mean, what are your thoughts on the team calls there between Perez and Verstappen?
Well, before I go down the Red Bull rabbit hole, I'll just finish up with Ferrari and Spain. I hate to say it, but if Sainz is going to have a chance at getting his first win, your teammate's out, Max spun in the battle.
Yeah.
Well, so this was the picture perfect day for him to make that happen, and he fell short again. And like you said, it just sucks to see. I want to get into a little segment later in the podcast too about drivers and the kind of cars, what suits them best, and is Sainz really a top car driver? But we'll touch on that later. And then another scary thing is I heard with Leclerc's power unit, there was 0 warning signs coming up to the failure. It was, which is terrifying for Ferrari, terrifying. And then I think almost the exact same thing happened with Guan Yu Zhou with the Ferrari power unit. So, like, I like Ferrari, and I love the competition they've had with Red Bull this season so far. So I would be gutted to see Ferrari power units start to just fall the 7th race in. But I think Sainz had no business being behind Russell. He should have been on the podium for sure, and it sucks. But
yeah.
Speaking of podiums, to Red Bull, 1-2. Like Max got caught out by the headwinds that you talked about as well, and thrown off track in turn 4, and it was a unforced error, unforced error as in there was no other driver involved.
Yes.
You know, it was a bittersweet win for Max, in my opinion. Like, I'm a huge Max fan, and I cheer him on at every chance I can get. But this one sat a little funny. Perez was definitely put on the back burner. The way they did it is, I get why they did it. I really do, because when you look at it, and if they didn't do it, he wouldn't be leading the championship right now. So, in saying that out loud, that's a clear-cut decision in my opinion. That you do have to swap positions and pick your priorities and stick to your game plan. And it definitely burns for Perez, and I didn't celebrate nearly as hard because it definitely felt like a flattered win for Max this past weekend. What do you think?
Yeah, well, that was sort of my standpoint. It's like I get it. He's got the lead in the points now. I get why they did it. I just think, 6 races into the season, we're already getting team orders. It seemed a little rich for me. I get it towards the end of the season, guys fighting for a championship, and there's a clear number 1 in the team. It's like, go for it. I get it. But right now, it just seemed a little premature for me, for my liking. And I mean, if you looked earlier in the race, when Verstappen was having his DRS issues, and he was going quite slow, and Perez caught up to him and Russell, Perez asked multiple times, let me by. Like, I know he's got problems, he's slow, but let me by. And they wouldn't do it. Eventually Verstappen pit, but they wouldn't let Perez through to get that chance on Russell, and that could have drastically changed Perez's race too, right? Could have been further up the field if he'd got that pass done much sooner. And then once the tables have been turned, or for another office fan, once the turntables, they don't. It's not reciprocated back to Perez, right? It's just, okay, get out of the way. And that's obviously when we broke into, like, okay, it's unfair, but okay. And I did feel really bad for the guy at that point, because I just think it is a little too early to be making calls like that. So, and I mean, in fairness, maybe Horner might have seen another multi-21 coming. I don't know, but it's a spicy meatball for them. It is. But I didn't really like it. I know a lot of other people didn't like it, but such is life. Such is life.
Memory's burnt in the Horner's brain?
I think it is a bit, because I remember even, like, after it, I think he, like, even, like, talked to the Queen of England about it when he had, like, some visit with her, because it was just such a crazy thing that happened, such a hot topic. So I don't think it's something you really forget about. And I do have a feeling, I mean, that wasn't the only one, too. Like, like one of the final straws for Ricciardo leaving Red Bull was him crashing into Max in Baku, right? So I get it. I get why they did it. I get what they're trying to avoid. It's just kind of stinks for the fans a bit, stinks for Perez, but such is life, I guess. I guess you just got to deal with it and move on.
Any newer listeners who might be wondering what the hell's a multi-21? Multi-21 was a order back at the, oh god, I forget what race it was, but it was
Sepang,
that's
yeah.
Correct. 2012.
Yep, I think so, yeah.
It was Sebastian Vettel, Mark Webber 1-2, and Sebastian Vettel was behind, and he was told to hold positions and go into multi-map 21, which is the mode of the car, and he decided to not, and pass Webber, and it blew up in the team internally, and Mark and Sebastian had, there wasn't a crash, but Mark and Sebastian had a call it a rocky relationship after that.
Yep.
But, you know, there has been a multiple one since when Max and Ricciardo decided to collide in the streets of Azerbaijan as well. So I'm sure that's imprinted in Horner's brain as well.
Yeah. The only thing that's different with those scenarios is Ricardo and Weber, they genuinely were going for the championship, and I think that's just that relentless mindset that I don't care how good my younger teammate is, I'm racing this guy. Whereas Perez, I do think, understands his role a little better in the team. I don't think he would have done some sort of risky move like Weber or Ricardo did that could result in a crash or something blowing up in the team. But, again, I guess all I can really say is, you know, I get why they did it, but it still kind of stinks. But I think, I hope they let them race a couple other times, but because that's going to happen again. I think they're the top team right now, so it's going to happen again where they're 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 or whatever, and they're going to have to make a call. So I hope from here on out, maybe they might let them do it. But I don't know.
I think if Max has a substantial lead on the championship, then I think it'll be a, hey, let you two race, or this one's going to Perez, suck it up.
Yep.
I hate to say it, I'm going to disagree with you with the team calls. I think team calls were needed. If we're going to have another Abu Dhabi where it's down to the last race between Leclerc and Max, he's going to need everything he can get. And they might look back at that call and go, we're really happy with this Perez off.
Yeah, that's fair. I totally get it. I get the standpoint. And maybe I'm just might be a little salty from a fan point of view. I think that might be more of what's holding me back a bit, but like I get it. I do get it. So I do sympathize with Perez too. There is another guy on that podium though who was stellar as well, and something that I think Red Bull and Ferrari should both be deeply concerned about.
Yep.
Is not just George Russell. That was an incredible race again from him. I mean, that battle with Max was unreal. The fact that he held him off for so long, you can say what you want about Max not having the DRS, but you know, Russell still had to put on the moves and put in the lap times to keep him back there, so he did a great job to hold him off for as long as he did. And man, that Merc looks fast, dude. Like
and he fought Perez well too. Like,
yeah. Minister
of British Defense, here comes Russell.
Yeah, it was defense against defense there. I loved it.
Yeah.
That is something that car should be deeply concerning to Mercedes and Ferrari though, but very good for a neutral standpoint, I think, because it does look like sooner rather than later there's going to be 3 teams that can fight for a win on the same, like, any given weekend, which I think is super cool from a neutral standpoint. I mean, as a Red Bull fan, because my McLaren are a little on the back foot right now, but from a Red Bull fan standpoint, do you think these guys are for real this time with these new upgrades?
What's that? Sorry, they're what with the upgrades?
Do you think Mercedes are actually for real with these new upgrades now? Like, are they?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think what the pace we saw in Spain, I think it was genuine. Like 19th to 5th from Hamilton, pumping in fastest laps. That looks and sounds all too familiar.
Yeah.
And I really am excited, even though I'm a huge Max Verstappen fanboy. Hamilton is a fantastic driver, and even if you're not a Hamilton fan, you cannot argue that. It looks like he has his pep in his step again, and I definitely he's back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think if he didn't get hit by Magnussen, he was at least podium for sure. Possible win contention with Max going in the gravel pit. I really think Hamilton could have won that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, Toto even said over the radio, look, Lewis, we could have won that race, but that was like the first bit of Hamilton magic any of us have seen this year, where it's like, oh my goodness, I think the King's back. I think he might be back here.
Well, hey, you know what? Another thing that kind of scares me is when Hamilton gets knocked down, he definitely has like a bit of a hangover from it. But once his hangover is cured, he comes back punching harder every single time. You know, Fernando gave him a hell of a time in, was it 08?
Yeah.
07?
Oh, 07, yes, 07.
07?
Yep.
And the years before that, he came back punching back harder. Vettel and Red Bull. Well, there's other teams too. McLaren had a bit of a rough patch in those years, but Vettel and Red Bull stomped on everybody for 4 years, and then here he comes back. He's coming back. So, and then Rosberg got him down, and he went 4 years in a row, just like stomping.
Yeah.
So Max has got him now, and I just don't see the Hamilton train coming to a pause just yet, especially after Spain. Kyle and I have started a little, and Marcus too, we've started this little predictions point system game, and we won't give you, we're just trialing it from Monaco, so we won't give you the details of this yet, but we got Hamilton hopeful predictions, just put it that way. But yeah, really impressive stuff from Russell and Hamilton in Mercedes. As a Red Bull fan, I'm really not that worried because they're essentially 7 races ahead, but I like to see it. I really do like to see it, and maybe I will get worried. Who knows?
Yeah. I think is if that point gap is just slowly like being chipped away, I think there will be a little more concern sinking in from some of the bigger teams. But yeah, like you said, like this guy just takes adversity and just thrives on it. You know, like I mean, even doubted himself after the Magnussen incident, right? And it was just, we should save the engine, guys. I'm sorry. And they told him to stay out. He stayed out, and he put in a ridiculous drive that, if they didn't have the overheating problems at the end, would have been 4th. Of course, he had to concede the signs at the end there. But 19th to 5th is like that's a pretty stellar performance to go. And you know what? Before I forget, not to take anything away from him, there's another guy who started at the back as well, Fernando, 20th to 9th. I know if I kept talking about Hamilton, I was going to forget about Fernando, so I want to give him a big shout out because that race pace was stellar from that Alpine. It's not just Alonso. Ocon had a really good run too.
Yep.
So another team that was looking pretty good in the race, and another guy that deserves a big shout out. So the old guys were just kicking tail this weekend. They look really good. So shouts out, Fernando. Awesome job. Yeah, so there's...
Moving on to the next point. The Magnussen-Hamilton collision. We'll just talk about it really, really quickly. I think everybody saw it. Everyone knows it. So just quickly, who's at fault? Racing incident or a fault? What do you think?
I do think it was Magnussen's fault, but I'm glad that there was no penalty on it because... Look, they both got burned from it. Magnussen had to go to the back too, and his car was broken the whole race. Terrible race for him and Haas. So, I'm glad there was no penalty given, but he definitely turned in on Lewis for sure. You could definitely see it. It was clear as day to me. I know in the heat of the moment, he said it was Hamilton's fault, but every driver in the heat of the moment always blames the other guy. I think Magnussen actually did backtrack on his comments yesterday. It was one day this week, and he did say like, okay, yeah, that was on me. So
yeah, like I was watching the onboards, and Hamilton's hands did not move. Tons of track to the left of him, and then just boop comes a Haas. So 100% Magnussen's fault. And I get where Magnussen's coming from because Hamilton can be Captain Pit maneuver.
Yep.
We won't go down that rabbit hole, but Albon.
Such a sore loser. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah. So all right, moving on. So this isn't really the best segue, but I'm just gonna kind of hit you with the McLaren woes in Spain. Speaking of being worried, if you were Daniel Ricciardo, would you be worried about your seat?
Yes, I would. I'd be very worried. I wouldn't just be worried about the seat. I'd be worried about myself and my confidence too, because it's just, and I didn't even realize this until after the race, that if you exclude the the sprint race in Imola, he's only finished in the points at one race this season, at one Grand Prix. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's really ugly, and it's not like the car isn't fantastic this year, but it's not bad either. So
No.
there's no reason why you can't at least be chipping in a couple 9th and 10th places here and there. Because, when you're battling for, what's looking like going to be 4th in the constructors, every point is going to count. So any, 11th or 12th where you squander away those extra couple points is really hurting. And, there's so many young drivers coming up through the ranks that it's just impossible to ignore them. And not just through Formula 2, they've got Pato O'Ward, who we've talked about on this show before, racing for the McLaren team in IndyCar, and he has on numerous occasions expressed his desire to compete in Formula 1 one day. And I mean, why not give him an opportunity, right? So I'd be very worried if I was Ricardo. And the only saving grace is that he's got it in him. He's a really good driver. He's just got to find it. He's just sort of lost that touch. It sucks. And I hope he can find it again, because I really like the guy. But I'm a little concerned. My level of concern is those boards that when you see out in the countryside, they measure the warnings for fire safety or whatever.
You're in the red.
I'm in the red. I'm this is gonna be a blazing inferno if something doesn't happen really soon. So
For the listeners, my dog is named after Daniel Ricciardo. His name is Ricky.
Oh, nice.
So,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and he's all his collars, all his leashes, bowls, everything's either papaya or blue.
Oh, sweet.
So even though I don't know, I say I'm a Red Bull fan, but then I show up on a podcast in all Ferrari gear, and then I have a McLaren dog. So I just like rooting. Everybody needs to have fun. Go everybody.
Yeah, there you go. We love sports. That's it.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I agree with you, man. I hate to see it, but Ricciardo's not looking himself, and I think his confidence is just so low. What it'll take to pick back up.
Yeah, the other
Monza should have and could have been the picker upper, and if that's not going to do it, I genuinely don't know what.
Yeah, and the other thing is that Lando just keeps chugging along and putting in good results. And the guy was sick all weekend, and it comes out of his tonsillitis, and he still manages to put in a points finish. Ridiculous, yeah. Right? The guy's driving half strength, and he's still up there fighting and getting points. So that's got to sting if you're Ricardo too, because leaves Red Bull because it's clear they've got their number one guy, and he wants to be a number one, and he gets forced out. Goes to Renault because he's going to be the number one. Team stinks. It's not what he was expecting. Goes to McLaren for greener pastures again, and now it's the same thing all over again. You have Max is just a younger guy just storming away and taking the team from you. So it's just getting to him, I think, man. I don't know what else.
I hate to say it, but I have this little theory on Ricciardo, and I think it really seems like he focuses on everything around him instead of himself in some scenarios, and it really hurts him.
Yeah.
Instead of worrying about the team, and instead of worrying about your teammate, it's head down and work on you. Just be the best driver you can be, and then I just feel he jumps ship too easily, and then hyper focuses on his teammates too much, in my opinion. But
yeah, I agree.
Who am I to say?
I'd agree with that.
Little grift kid in Ontario. So.
So another guy I'd actually put down that I don't, not that he should be concerned of losing his seat. He won't, and he won't lose a seat anytime soon. But another guy, might be a little concerned, might be feeling the pressure a little bit. Do you think Mick Schumacher might be underperforming a little bit, or you think there's a bit of pressure starting to get to him, to finally, score a point? And the fact that he's got a teammate now who's just really, really quick and is consistently up in the points.
Yeah, absolutely. The end goal, he knows it. Ferrari knew it. I think everybody under the sun knew it. Is the path was to get to Ferrari, and if he doesn't pull it up, Ferrari's not going to give him the seat just because of his last name. It'll definitely help, but you got to have that performance to make it there. And he's going to get it easier than most will. And he's, could miss it but he did make progress. He ran in the top 10 for a lot of the race and did make Q3 for the first time, so there was progress.
Yep.
I heard the Haas had terrible tire management, so that could have been completely out of his control. They didn't bring any upgrades, right? So that could have played a factor too, that everything was upgraded around him. You know, and it's hard to compare because we didn't get to see Magnussen race his actual race. You know, maybe Magnussen would have dropped like a rock down to where Mick Schumacher was and confident to go, okay, that was the car, not him. But it's all hearsay at the moment because we won't know enough to compare to.
Yeah, I try to give them the benefit of the doubt too, because we know they didn't have a very good strategy this weekend for Haas, and we saw at the end, obviously, tires burned out, and he was just getting gapped by everybody at the end, which is pretty unfortunate for him. I think he will come along too. He was really good in Formula 2. He won the championship, obviously. The skill is there. I think it will come eventually, but yeah, I think, a young guy too, a new guy, I think, might just be experiencing a bit of pressure for the first time in a while too. And obviously, as you said, the last name that he carries just naturally has a lot of pressure on it as well too. But I think he'd get it turned around. I mean, the saving grace for him is that Haas is just so much better this year. So at least he is in an opportunity where he can prove himself. So,
yep.
Yeah. I think he will pick it up. I think he will. Yeah, just going to take some time, I guess. It's time and patience for him.
And you know what? That's a good segue point. Speaking of midfield teams, I have this little theory I've been starting to develop that certain drivers are way better in winning top team cars, and some drivers are way better in midfield cars. And I'll back up my theory with a couple of examples of them. Pierre Gasly being one of them, Alexander Albon being another one of them. And
Yep.
I actually think Ricciardo's on the opposite of the spectrum. I think he always struggles a little more in a midfield car. And in an alternate universe, I would be really curious to see what would have come if Carlos Sainz stayed in McLaren and Daniel got that Ferrari seat. Would he have gotten this massive pep in his step, and we would have seen a 2016, 2017 Red Bull form Daniel Ricciardo pushing Leclerc?
That's a really good point, actually. And I mean, that's what everybody thought was going to happen, was Ricciardo was going to take that seat. It was I remember it was a huge shock when they said Sainz. But I would definitely back that up. Now, do you think there's any underlying reason, like, why that might be the case? Do you think some guys just can't handle the pressure of a big team and vice versa, and some guys just don't really know their place or their footing in a midfield team because they're so used to running at the front? Maybe that's one thing I thought in the first few races this season was with between Hamilton and Russell, why Russell was doing so much better was that Russell is so used to driving just garbage cars and making them do things that they're not supposed to do.
Yep.
Whereas Hamilton is just so used to running at the front, he gets put in a dog of a car, and
he knows what to do with it.
Yeah, and
not what to do with it, but you know what I mean. It comes less natural to him than, let's say, Lando or Carlos and I think we're seeing that with Ricciardo. Like, he drove top form Red Bull for so long, and now midfield car after midfield car, he doesn't know how to wrestle it like Lando does.
Yeah.
And I don't think Carlos knows how to finesse a top seated car like a Hamilton or Ricciardo does.
Yeah, and that's weird because Carlos was so good at Ferrari last year, right? It was
a midfield car last year.
Exactly. And going into this year, everyone's like, well, don't be just saying Leclerc is the automatic number one. Like, Sainz might take the spot from him, right? And well, it's pretty clear who is the number one now. It's not even close. So, again, just backing up your theory here, there's no tinfoil hats on this podcast. We're only talking real stuff here. This is a real theory. It exists. And, there's a ton of different factors that can play into it, but it is obviously just certain guys fit certain cars and certain guys don't fit certain cars. But then another thing too, to look at those two Red Bull drivers you named as well, with Albon and Gasly, that one is a case where it's like everybody knows these guys are really good and really talented drivers, but I think it was more they put the resources into one car and one guy, and might have left the other guys on the back foot a bit.
Yeah, that definitely played into it too.
Yeah. Now, obviously, going up against Max Verstappen is a huge task in itself, but I'm just saying it's that much tougher when you feel like you might not be getting the support that the other guy is getting. So that plays into it too. But yeah, that's a good point. I like that one. I like it a lot, actually. And I think the ultimate sample size is just looking at Sainz this year compared to Sainz last year.
Yeah, and even in McLaren, and even in Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
Sainz beat Verstappen as a teammate. Just
yes.
A reminder for everybody.
Yep.
Now, also, Max was probably like 10 years old back then, but
yeah.
Carlos isn't very old either. Everyone forgets he's not a very old driver either. He's pretty young too.
26, 25, 26, something like that. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm old now, so hold on.
Who isn't old? Don't worry.
But yeah, so speaking of Sainz, how do you think he's going to do in Monaco? Let's segue over to Monaco now. I think that's it for Spain, right? I don't think we have really much more to touch on.
I think we covered quite a bit. Shouts out to Bottas P6 again.
Yeah.
Just seems like it just seems robotic at this point that we just forget it now all of a sudden. But yeah.
Hey, you thought I was crazy for putting him P5. He almost fulfilled it.
He almost did it. We all had him at least P6 though, so I think it's just robotic now that we just almost forget about it because he's just so good at putting the car up there.
Yep.
But yeah, shouts out to Valtteri, and he just actually gifted his final bum portrait to Lewis earlier today.
I just watched that.
And he gave him like a special message and signed and everything for him. So he's loving life. He's just scoring huge points, no pressure on him. He runs the team in Alfa Romeo. He does what he wants, takes bare naked pictures and gives them to people. He's just loving life. So again, big shout out to Valtteri, and we'll probably keep shouting him out multiple times this year because he's doing so good. So yeah, thanks for letting me do that. On to Sainz though in Monaco. I mean, there's no gravel, so that's good. But there was no gravel in Miami either, and he put it into the wall hard in practice. So I mean, he did great in qualifying in the race, but it's tougher if you crash your car in Monaco. It's a lot harder to repair it in time because the crashes are generally heavier and you have less time to repair the cars. I hope he turns it around. I hope he does. But there's nothing that's really giving me signs to... Oh, jeez. I just realized what I said there. Wow. You can tell by my reaction that was not planned at all. But there's no signs giving me any reason to believe that he would turn it around.
Show me the sign.
That's the question.
But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I hate to say that because I do want to see him turn around. But okay, so I did a little digging in the last two races, and according to what I found, fastest slow sector times in Miami and Spain were gifted to Ferrari. So, and also if Ferrari could throw a pole, I know the pole was a little controversial last year, but if Ferrari could throw a pole with that car last year, lock it in, Leclerc pole again, I don't think he's going to disappoint this time around. I really don't.
I mean, he's got the pace. Like, he knows... obviously, he grew up there. He knows the track in the back of his hand. Like, he's got the pace, and he knows how to run it. It's just a matter of... Can you stay clean? Can you stay out of reliability trouble? There's just too many things that play into it. As much as people like to joke that Monaco's a procession or a parade or whatever, it's a strategist it's a dream for people who like strategy, because that's how you're going to make passes at this race. So that's going to be a huge thing for Ferrari and Leclerc too, is they can't blow it on some silly mistake, because you're never going to get that position back if you do make any mistake like that. So, but yeah, you would think at some point he's not going to go his whole career without binning the car or DNFing because of some stupid reason. Eventually he's going to get something going there. You would have to think. So
yeah, I'm calling it. This is his weekend. This is his home weekend. I'm calling it.
So yeah, maybe this year it might be the one. I wouldn't be surprised.
Said, a reminder for everybody who hasn't checked: we got rain on Sunday in Monaco.
Yes.
And I'm really hoping it's that spotty rain, like you just said, that makes the strategy engineers come to life. Like, I hope it's wet, dry, one of those. I really do. Because let's shake the dice and scramble up the table and see what happens.
That would make for a fantastic race, obviously, if it just keeps changing like that. And I know when I was there, like, I never got rained on, thankfully, but I remember the weather report just keeps changing back and forth, like almost like by the hour. It seems like it's almost hard to predict the weather in that area. I don't know what, because of the sea or whatever.
Very likely, yeah.
I'm not a meteorologist. I have no idea. But maybe the weather is kind of hard to predict in that region. So again, yeah, it could be, rain is off, rain is on. Like, who knows? And you might see guys scrambling around trying to pick the right tires at the last second, obviously. Almost like a go-kart race, really. That would be cool. That would be really cool. Now, when you say that Ferrari had the advantage in the low-speed sectors, it's interesting because Russell was saying the Mercedes was feeling really good. So I don't know, maybe on paper it's like not as good as they think it is, but he's saying they felt really good in slow corners. And that's why I'm thinking, and we know, the Mercedes engine is not the fastest compared to, the Honda in disguise and the Ferrari. This is a track where Mercedes could really excel, where there's not a lot of speed, and it's a lot of tight corners, and especially this is the longest race of the season, I think, and I don't think people realize that, because they do the number of laps based on distance, and the distance in Monaco is so short, but because it's just so slow and tight corners, they're long laps, and there's a lot of laps. So anybody who's struggling with reliability right now is going to be in for a nail biter, and Mercedes have really been the only ones that have been okay with it so far. So,
well, what was it? They finished both cars every race.
Yeah,
I think it's the only constructor that's finished both cars every race for the entire season.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
So that's a huge achievement on their part. Russell continues his top 5 every race, no matter what.
Yep.
And then what other fun stats? I think that's it going into Monaco. Hamilton's no stranger to Monaco. He's been fantastic there in previous years. So he's got his pep in his step. He's got a car under him. Look out. All I have to say is look out. He's back.
So on that topic, do you want to give you some predictions, or do you want to explain the little game we have for predictions?
Yeah. I came up with a little predictions point system game. The point system's tucked away in my phone, but I think I remember it off the top of my head. So you guess top 3, and then whoever doesn't get the top 3 correct, it's the closest, the most accurate to top 3 gets half the points, and then so on through top 5 and top 8. And top 8 is a huge point score, because if you get every driver right, top 8, then you are a god at Formula 1 predictions, and you deserve all the points.
Yes. So
we gave our top 8 predictions. You have access to your phone right now, right?
I do.
Yeah, so if you want to pull up our predictions, maybe we can share them. But speaking of cars that are good in slow speed and someone who's been Mr. Consistent, I'm putting Valtteri is going to have a wicked race and possibly a podium. So I think because apparently he's very excited and for Monaco because, and according to these second times I was looking at, the Alpha is quite quick in slow speeds as well, and feels really good in slow speed according to Bottas. So look up for him as well, I guess.
Yeah, they look really, really good in those tight corners. So, do you want me to read out the predictions here?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, I'm going to give your predictions first, since I've got them right in front of me here. So, This is for Ryan. So, he's got Leclerc first, Sainz second, so Ferrari 1-2.
Yep.
Bottas third.
Yep.
Huge prediction there.
Yep.
Verstappen, Perez fourth and fifth. So no Red Bulls on the podium. That's a huge one too.
Big bold prediction.
He's got Hamilton and Russell, 6th and 7th, and Norris in 8th for McLaren.
Yep.
So that's her. Man, I like those. Spice it up a little bit.
The only one that I want to kind of put up there, and I'm like really diving in on the Ferrari power units. I think Magnussen deserves to be up there too, but Norris is good. In Monaco, like we saw last year, and I don't know. I have this little feeling it's not going to be the best race in the world for him, like top 5.
Yeah.
But I don't think he'll do bad. I just don't see him doing bad.
Yeah. And I think, to your point of Magnussen too, I think they're starting to be caught up a little bit by other teams with their upgrades. Personally, maybe not in qualifying, but definitely in the race pace.
Which, if it's not raining, doesn't matter.
Exactly. So they just need a good qualifying. So he might sneak in there. Let's see. You know what? I'll say mine for last. Marcus is not here, but we do have his predictions. He's here in spirit. So he's also got Leclerc in first. So you guys are banking on that curse being broken.
Yep.
Verstappen second. Hamilton in third. So that would be his second podium of the year. Russell fourth. So continue his streak of top 5s. Perez 5th. Sainz 6th. Norris 7. Bottas 8th. So a relatively similar same guys in the top 8 for you two, but just different orders.
Yep.
Hamilton on the podium that's a pretty big one. I back it. Once you hear my picks, you'll see that I back it.
Oh yeah.
So he also has Perez off the podium, much like you. He's got Verstappen in second. So, I like it. You guys are both backing up Leclerc. That's nice. I, on the other hand, am not. So my predictions, and I don't know. I might take a bit of flack for this. We're gonna post these later, but so you guys can have all your opinions on it. But I've got Hamilton winning. I'm locking it in. I said that on Monday.
I don't even think it's ridiculous though. I think it's there. It's not what I would predict on, but it's not a ridiculous prediction.
Yeah, it's risky. It's a risky one, but I saw that little twinkle in his eye, that I think he's like, I've got this car figured out. We've got the upgrades. Let's go. So I'm sticking with it. I'm not moving. I'm not budging. I'm sticking with it. I've got his best buddy Max in second. I've got Russell in third. So 2 Mercedes on the podium. I've got Leclerc in fourth. So, even just finishing a race for him at Monaco, I think is a good achievement for him. Perez 5th. Sainz in 6th. Bottas 7th. And Esteban Ocon in 8th. Little different there for my 8th place.
Yeah, Alpine should be up there, I guess. I don't know. There's so many. That's the nice thing about this year is there's so many options. Like the only people you can and I hate saying this, that properly discount is Aston and Williams.
Yeah.
Like you can count them out of top 8 almost every race very comfortably.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thanks for reminding me. The faux Red Bull it's just not what we thought it was. So that's
Yeah,
why,
I knew it wouldn't be.
yeah. So that's why I'm not putting them in any prediction until I can actually see them make their own adjustments and their own developments that we can actually see work, instead of just copying something else that is not going to run the exact same on a different car. So
Now, I heard a little bit from Mike Crack, which is still so crazy. And I'm so immature about it, and I don't care. But anyway, what Mike Crack thinks is that this I guess, philosophy that the Red Bull has, they had it as well. And apparently the FIA has records to design and CNC work and CAD drawings, and they have it dated, and they really did have this same philosophy before they released it, and even before Red Bull released their car. They had two philosophies. They tried the other one first, so apparently it's all legit. Horner did make a little comment saying it does have to go to court, talking big accusations, because I guess quite a few Red Bull employees went to Aston Martin.
Yep.
He wasn't harsh about it. He wasn't his typical Karen self. But he mentioned, he goes, if we have to go down that route and we find evidence, then we will. That was all he really said.
Oh, man.
Hey, technically, not on paper, but technically Aston Martin is a Canadian-owned team, but still family, and this is the Formula A podcast, so hey, we would both be super happy to see them doing well.
Oh, absolutely, and I hate seeing teams that are just so down in the dumps. I wish everybody could fight for points, right? So I hope they get it turned around, but until they do, I know I want to have them up there for the Canadian aspect, but I've got to think with my I've got to think logically. We've got to think logically when we're making these picks, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
You could throw some fun stuff in there, like Bottas P3. That would be a wild prediction if I nail it. But there's a little bit of evidence on how it could happen. But saying Vettel's going to get P4, which I guess isn't terrible. Didn't he get P8 or P6 last year? He was up there.
He was he was up there. He was up there.
It's not completely out to lunch, but I think you guys get our point.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of things can happen in the race too. I'm not discounting that, but I think a lot of the predictions are being made based on everyone just having clean runs too, right? So, we can't predict Olivier Panis, where Olivier Panis wins. There's the only 3 cars finish the race or whatever, so that stuff's possible, I guess, but
I had money on Pastor Maldonado winning the 2012 Spanish Grand Prix. I think everybody did.
Oh yeah, in hindsight, yeah. Secret millionaire based on that bet.
But yeah, you got anything else to touch on Monaco, Kyle?
I think that's it. I just hope for a little bit less of a parade and hope we get a good show. I have a newfound love for that track since I went there too, so
yeah, that's pretty awesome. And my parents were actually there on Monday or Tuesday, and my dad sent me videos of them driving their little rental car through the tunnel, and
that's so cool.
Going through the hairpin, the lines are painted and the billboards are going up now, and everything's looking really legit.
Yeah.
So it was super cool. It's super cool to see, and it's very weird to see from a different angle, from your photos and now from the stuff I've been sent from my parents. Whoa, that's the size. That's what it looks like, because we only ever see it from Monaco's terrible broadcast. Yeah, fun fact for everybody: Monaco broadcasts their own race and feeds it back to F1 and Sky Sports. So they are not in charge. Sky Sports is not in charge of their own broadcast, or neither is F1.
Yes, so don't blame Sky Sports for the Stroll incident last year, or if it happens again this year. What has happened? We need to know. Yeah, you can blame the Automobile Club de Monaco, I guess, or whoever does that. Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah,
We covered a lot.
double feature. So yeah,
Yeah, good deal.
yeah, I hope everybody enjoys the Monaco Grand Prix. And yeah, I think we should be back to a threesome next week, and Marcus should be back. And yeah, sure there'll be a lot to talk about again. It's Formula One, man. It's always interesting. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Formula A, and we will see you next week. Take care.